Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Avery Lind, a student rep from Mind Out Loud. Mind Out Loud is a student-led program, and many of the materials during the workshop are student-generated. The information provided on this platform is for general information purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical or mental health condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or read on this platform. If you think you may have a medical or mental health emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Willow.
Hi everyone, my name is Willa and I'm a Mind Out Loud student rep, part of the Outreach Committee. Joining us from our January workshop today are youth leaders from Good for Media. GFM, otherwise known as Good for Media, is a peer-to-peer mentoring and educational program dedicated to supporting teen and young adults' healthy tech and media use. In this youth-led session, you'll learn from youth leaders' lived experiences as digital natives, as well as tips and strategies to use social media and tech in balanced ways. Participants will explore and nuanced perspectives to teens' tech use and walk away with tools and resources to support their own healthy tech engagement. This session will be led by Good for Media leaders. If any questions come up during the presentation, feel free to submit them to the Q&A form that we hope to get to by the end of the hour. We will go ahead and turn it over to Good for Media, who will be leading the workshop on putting in media, teens supporting healthy tech use. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Good evening, wherever you are. And thank you so much for joining us. My name is Marilyn. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I'm a youth outreach coordinator at the Center for Youth Mental Health and Wellbeing. And that's where our Good for Media program was born out of and runs through. And y'all will get to learn a little bit more about Good for Media as I am joined by our lovely youth leaders, Riley and Katie. So they'll definitely get a second to introduce themselves. But a little bit about Good for Media before we pass it over to them is this is like Willa and Avery mentioned, this is a peer-to-peer educational program, and our main goal is really to support, our fellow teens, fellow young people in using technology in more balanced ways. I think probably all of us have a phone, a computer, iPad of some sort. And, I think we have acknowledged that it's really important and crucial to have these conversations. So that's what we're here to do today. And hopefully, you all find this interactive and engaging. But like I said, today's workshop will be completely led by our youth leaders, Katie and Riley. I just get the wonderful opportunity to support them and support our team. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to them and let them take it away.
Hi, everyone. Today, Katie and I will be your GFM workshop facilitators. My name's Riley. I use she, her pronouns. I am 18 years old, and I am a freshman at the University of Washington. I'm originally from the Bay Area, but I'm just here for school in Seattle. And I've been a part of Good for Media for about 2 years now, I think. And I'll pass it over to Katie.
Hi everyone, my name is Katie. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a senior in high school right now, and I'm based in Palo Alto, California. And I've been a part of Good for Media for almost 3-4 years. Oh my God, it's been forever. So I'm super excited to be here presenting to all of you. So first, let's go over what we'll be doing together today. First, we'll start with a check-in. We'll do a little session about Good for Media, about what we do, and then we'll do some group activities, which includes the social media design, which I'm really excited to see what all of you guys come up with. And then we'll also be closing out the workshop with a little check-in. And then, of course, before we formally start, it's really important to set our community agreements. We always want to make sure that we engage in this space with the same expectations so everyone feels comfortable. So I'll just read out the agreements for us. Make sure to be a good listener by treating everyone's stories and experiences with respect. Approach the space with curiosity, not judgment. Take space and make space. What's shared here stays here, but what's learned here leaves here. And if you're unsure about something, ask follow-up questions instead of assuming. I know that's a little hard with our with this format, but you're always free to type in the chat as well. And so, yeah, we hope that everyone will abide by these agreements, and we'll jump into our icebreaker together. All right, so this first activity, we're going to do how much do you agree? So we'll be using a Mentimeter, and you can join by going to the link at the top of the slide, which I believe will also be set in the chat. And you can also scan the QR code if you want to join on your phone. So we'll be sharing one of these statements. We'll be reading it aloud for you guys, one statement at a time, and we'll give you guys 30 seconds to respond. So if you agree, you can click agree. If you're in the middle, you can click the middle, and then if you disagree, click disagree. Very straightforward. And then we will be debriefing this at the end. Okay, so our first question is, social media helps me form new communities and stay connected to existing ones. So click on which one you agree with the most. All right, I see some agrees. I think majority is definitely on the agree side. And I feel the same way, definitely. It really allows me to stay connected to friends, even when we're far away from each other, which is really nice. All right, we can pass the next one. Riley, do you want to take that on?
Yeah, so our next statement is social media use leads to negative mental health. So again, agree, disagree in the middle. Okay, a lot of in the middle. Okay, agree. Yeah, I think this one is kind of hard to say. I think in some cases, social media kind of makes our mental health worse in terms of how much time we spend on it, but in other ways it might help us or help us find communities, like in that first question. So totally fine to be in the middle. Some people have worse, experiences too. So yeah, this is a good spread. All right, and I'll pass it back over to Katie.
All right, okay, our next question is, phones have no place in schools. Like, this is very relevant. I don't know about you guys, but definitely at my school, this is an ongoing debate, so it can get a little heated. So I'm interested in what you guys say. Okay, so a lot of disagree. Okay, yeah, definitely very polarized to disagree. Yeah, I think also the phone usage can be kind of nuanced. So it's like, what are you using your phone for? Maybe it's helpful to your learning. You never know. All right, we can move on to the next one.
Our next one is social media is a creative outlet. Okay, cool. We have some creative people. I know sometimes I'm just like scrolling mindlessly, but other times like I feel like you could get good ideas, recipes, crafts, or like I know some people are creating content, so that's cool too. Awesome. Okay, we got some really creative people. That's great. All right, I'll pass it back over to Katie.
Okay, our next question is, social media helps people stay informed about current events. I would definitely click agree on this one. I think I get so much of my news from social media, and that might be a bad thing, especially with the amount of AI going on there. I don't know, maybe I'm being fed like fake news. You never know. All right, yeah, definitely a lot of agree. All right, cool. Okay, I'll pass it back to Riley for the last one.
All right, our last one is I have control over my social media and online use. I'm interested to see where everybody falls. No judgment space, so just be honest. Okay, wow. This is cool. We have like a lot of different answers. Good diversity. Yeah, for me at least, I'm probably in the middle. I think some days, I don't know, reels can just lock me in for like a few hours, but other days I can be more intentional. So definitely in the middle. All right, well, thank you all for being so honest. Katie, should I wrap up the activity, you think? All right. All right. So thank you all for your responses. We're going to do a quick debrief. Did any of the responses surprise you? So you can just kind of think about it. I don't know if we have access to the chat, but you guys can share your thoughts or just kind of reflect. Did anything surprise you? Did any questions stand out to you the most? And you can respond on, you can add on the Mentimeter. So I'm not quite sure how to do that, but I think it should give you an option to somehow share your thoughts on the Mentimeter, or you can send us a chat. Anyways, so thank you to participating in our icebreaker. These are statements. Oh, okay. We have, it's anonymous. So this is interesting. Phones in schools question has become really relevant. I agree. Yeah, I think there's a lot of discourse about, safety versus focus and where we kind of draw the line on how to keep everybody safe but also not have it as a distraction. Having control over social media usage definitely stood out to me as it forced me to really consider and be honest with myself. That's great. Yeah, I know sometimes it's hard to be honest with ourselves, especially because social media isn't really considered like something you can become addicted to or anything like that. But it's definitely leaning that way. All right, last one I'll read. The question that stood out to me was the social media usage one. It made me realize how a lot of people have different levels of control, which makes me wonder why that is. Yeah, that's great. It's great to dig deeper into kind of why different people have different levels of control. And I think that's a great thing to explore. All right, so thank you so much for sharing on that. I'm gonna just kind of wrap it up with just sharing a little bit more about this activity. These are statements we've heard from the youth mental health world, from teachers, parents, policymakers, and other adult allies. And while the concerns come from a place of care, social media use is far more nuanced than folks make it out to be. While we know the excessive use of social media can cause harm to young people's mental health, we believe it's equally important to acknowledge the powerful ways it can be used for good. So looking at it from both angles, from connecting to the community to learning new recipe or skills, it's impossible to deny the various benefits of social media and technology as a whole. This is why we started Good for Media. So I'm going to get into more about who we are. All right. Good for Media is a peer-to-peer educational program to have you share their personal stories, insights, and strategies with each other to support their healthy engagement with technology and social media. Through our For Youth by Youth approach, our main goal is to provide youth with advice and guidance from those with firsthand experience to help youth navigate social media in a way that benefits their mental health and improves the well-being of our community. So a lot of times we hear how we should feel about mental health from our parents or maybe our teachers and how we should interact with social media. But our main goal with social media, or with Good for Media, is to have youth supporting youth from a place of encouragement rather than judgment. Our founders, 2 teens and an adult ally, saw a need for youth to be better supported online and also the valuable wisdom many had already developed through their own experiences. This planted the seed of an idea for this wisdom to be shared with peers to help them have better relationships with technology. During the pandemic, the time was right to start the program as the use of technology exploded in order for us to stay connected. And we saw both the good and the bad impacts of it on youth. So next I'm going to share a few statistics. Some of these sentiments are captured in the following statistics. For instance, according to a 2022 study by the Pew Research Center, 95% of teens have access to a smartphone, emphasizing the relevance of technology use in our everyday lives. The study also mentions how 46% of US teens aged 13 to 17 report experiencing at least one of 6 cyberbullying forms, such as offensive name calling or spreading of false rumors. These statistics showcase how many of us are connected through some type of device, as well as the negative impacts of technology use can have on our mental health. So it's really interesting to see kind of where everybody stands and how we all have access to these, but sometimes it can be dangerous and other times it can be healthy. So go to the next slide, please. Thank you, Marilyn. And then, so like I was getting to, there are also many positives to technology used in social media. Recent studies by the Hope Lab and Born This Way Foundation found that 44% of LGBTQ plus youth feel very safe online when expressing their identities, compared to the 9% that feel very safe in person. Another statistic shows that 69% of teens say that smartphones make it easier for them to pursue hobbies and interests. Shedding light on this data is important, as honoring the positive, negative, and in the middle experiences we are having online through research that centers youth. And it's an incredible way to stay grounded, being able to look at it from different angles and see how different communities are interacting with the media. There we go. Okay, so through a lot of youth-centered data and youth testimonials, we created main themes, which I'll go ahead and read. So body image and sexualization, which is kind of referring to how people feel about their bodies when posting online. The perfect image, which is referring to like spending time perfecting and kind of making sure your post or story or whatever you create is really perfect, or spending a long time on that. Diversity and representation, so whether people are seeing themselves and their identities and communities represented in the media. Social media time doom scrolling, so kind of looking into algorithms and how much time we're spending unintentionally and intentionally on social media. Negativity, so there's a lot of hate, I feel like cyberbullying, things like that. And then improving social media for youth. A lot of times these are for-profit companies creating, these platforms that we all love, but sometimes they're not as user-centered. And then finally, privacy and safety, which kind of intersects with that. And a lot of these intersect with each other. And now we want to show you one of our youth testimonials from one of our Good for Media members, Sonia, who will discuss a little bit about the impacts of social media on her learning experiences. Can you guys hear that? I don't know if I can hear that.
Sorry.
I
Let me see. Maybe if I
Floating reaction.
Okay. Let me know if this works.
No, I still can't hear it.
Oh no. That's okay. Yes, we can skip it.
It's all good. I'll just give a little summary, but she kind of touches on some of our themes, such as the perfect image in social media time, doom scrolling. And based on these themes, Good for Media strives to create spaces that can explore these areas that aren't just, and there just isn't enough dialogue happening within our communities on the impacts of these themes and on our mental health. So moving on, and I'll pass it over to Katie. Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
No worries, Riley. Well, so yeah, Riley touched on our main themes, and that's pretty much what drives our work. So one huge part of what we do is workshops like the one that you're attending right now. And the main goal of these workshops is really to give you the space to reflect on how social media and tech has impacted your well-being and your habits and just your daily life in general. Another aspect of our work is in advocacy. So we want to give you a voice in policy and in legislation. So we've had the great privilege of presenting to the White House and then also at the California Senate. And we've also written a lot of op-eds. So these are all just our way of getting youth voices to those policymakers at that higher level. Yeah, and then another part of our work is really developing tools. So we create guides such as this social comparison guide, I believe it is. The main goal of these is to kind of give you tips or to give your parents tips or to give teachers tips on how to navigate conversations around social media and how you can also better protect your own well-being when it comes to social media and tech. And then another aspect of our work is writing blogs. So we really, really enjoy getting blog submissions, and you can also submit blogs to Good for Media. And we really just want to hear your story or anything that you might be interested in that's related to our work. because yeah, youth testimonials, youth stories, youth experiences is what we really aim to uplift. And then, of course, another aspect is testimonials, much like the one that Sonia, Sonia was recording in one of the previous slides. And you can also feel free to submit your own testimonials to share your story, again, your perspectives and experiences. And then one fairly new development that's really exciting is we've created Good for Media conversation cards, which were developed by Good for Media youth leaders. And this is really just to stimulate conversation among youth to really encourage you to dive deeper into how social media is impacting you and to share those stories and have those conversations with your family, friends, teachers, anyone who you want to have these conversations with. And this is really good for an icebreaker or on a road trip or around the dinner table. And you can order these out on our website. And it's just a really cool resource. And these are some examples of our mild level cards, which I think are really great. We have different levels. It's mild, medium, and spicy. All right. Okay. So now we're going to move into our activity, which is the social media design. And for this activity, we want you to think about all the different social media platforms that you're on or you might know about. And we're basically going to send you a Padlet link. Oh, sorry, not a Padlet link. Is it a Padlet? It is a Padlet. All right. Thank you, Marilyn. And you can see some of these popular apps. And from these apps, you're going to pick one and describe a feature that you might want to add or change, and kind of explain a little bit about why that's the case. And we really want you to be engaging in this activity from your own perspective and also from the perspective of your peers as well. What do you think these platforms should change to make your experience better and safer? So yeah, I think Marilyn sent the link in the chat. Thank you so much, Marilyn. And we'll give you guys some time. I think we're going to give you guys 5 minutes to add a post to a platform that you've selected. If you have enough time to select more than one, go for it. And then we'll come back together and do a little debrief.
All right, everybody, feel free to continue working on a little post, or if you want to comment on someone else's, I see there's that feature too. But we're going to start kind of debriefing some of these because you guys have some great ideas. But again, feel free to keep working or take a pause, whatever works for you. So I'm going to start with Instagram. I'm just going to read off this post, and it says, the 1 hour timer could be changed to say something like, do you need to be on Instagram, or something similar to persuade you to get off the app. And then, you know, the acknowledgement that it is a for-profit company. Unfortunately, yeah. I totally agree with this one. I think a lot of studies about intentional social media use have kind of shown that sometimes all you need is just a little check-in with yourself. Like, what are you going to do on this app? Or are you just opening it out of habit? You know, like sometimes I will go on in hoping to like, oh, I need to check this DM or this post. And then I'll just end up scrolling and forgot why I even tried to go on the app. And sometimes I don't even have anything like that. And I think having something like, you know, oh, I'm going to go check this DM or check this account would definitely help. Or like, you know, oh, I am going to scroll for a few minutes, but it's going to be 15 minutes and I'm going to hop off and kind of evaluate. So I really like that. And Katie, if you want to take the next one, you can. But I know the for-profit company really impacts how, you know, user-centered it is. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that comment. Also, what you touched on, Riley. So for the next one, we have TikTok has a STEM tab with science and education content, and I think that it would be super helpful if they had a similar tab for mental health and wellness content. And I love this one. I think that's absolutely true. I think, especially on an app where there's a lot of negative content and there's social comparison and, you know, doom scrolling, I think it's super important to push content that promotes wellness, especially for youth. So I absolutely love that comment. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, and we got a few for YouTube here. I'm seeing, I really resonate with this one, the disabling of YouTube Shorts. long form content, definitely way much. I mean, it's just way better for like I feel like our attention spans and things like that. But totally, YouTube is, I feel like currently, if you ever watch a short, it'll suddenly populate your entire For You page with just shorts on top, which is just kind of, I don't know, it's definitely frustrating. So I really like this comment, and I definitely think YouTube Shorts need to give some user choice, whether you want them on or off. I think if people want them on, that's fine, but I think giving the user the option is super crucial. And we have a same. That's awesome. And then Katie, do you want to take the last YouTube post here?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this comment as well. I think also this applies to not just YouTube. Like, I feel like this definitely applies like TikTok or Instagram as well. Definitely like promoting some positive content. Because a lot of times I feel like on these platforms, some of the more negative content might be what gets the views or goes viral. I've seen that happen a few times. So definitely promoting positive content is definitely relevant to all of these platforms.
Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing on that, you guys, and feel free to keep adding if you're still working on an idea. Those were all really insightful, I feel like. So you have a lot of very aware youth in the Zoom or Google Meet. Keep forgetting. So thank you all for sharing. I definitely agreed with all of those. And I feel like they all kind of tried to center youth well-being at the core. And we appreciate getting creative and thinking about the possibilities to shift the way platforms are designed so that we have better experiences when interacting with them. Currently, there's a lot of youth organizing taking place around platform design. With the goal of holding platform designers accountable for the harms youth are experiencing. So organizations like Design It For Us and Youth Leadership Institute's HOPE are currently doing work in this space. We encourage you to look into these organizations if you're interested in making a difference on the policy level. So like someone mentioned, they wanted a certain feature, but it was unlikely because of the for-profit company putting their profit before user experience. So if you're interested in stuff like that, there's a lot of great kind of youth groups out there. And thank you for all these great conversations. We wanted to wrap it up today by sharing some tips and strategies from our team about balancing media use. And yeah, I'm seeing the chat. Make sure you submit final Q&A questions. We're getting to that pretty soon.
I wish that when I first started social media, I knew that it was important to protect your personal information online, not just to social media companies and the social media apps, but also just in general, like your own social media presence, not kind of posting your entire life on there. I understand that social media is like a way you can express yourself, but I wish I understood more about digital footprint and like your social media presence will always be there. You don't necessarily have to share every thought or like interest that you have, and it's important to protect or keep certain things to yourself.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the idea of like a digital footprint. Whenever you post online, even if you delete your story, it's not something you can just completely get rid of. It's kind of always going to exist in the universe. Social media posting can feel so indirect because you don't see the people who are seeing your content. I wish I realized that like real people were viewing my content, that it's going to like stay in their mind.
All right, so hopefully that was pretty insightful for you guys. We had the lovely Katie and Zini on there. And then just curious to hear from the community, are there ways you've already protected your digital footprint and paste in the chat, or maybe a way that you want to improve your digital footprint, something you've been like, maybe I need to start working on this to make my, tech use a little bit safer. But yeah, feel free to paste it in the chat and we'll give it a moment to kind of reflect for a second there. Yeah. Okay, I'll just read them off anonymously, so feel free to submit whatever. One of them says, I wish I would focus less on comparison, following uplifting creators, and having social media as a way to learn new hobbies has been helpful for me. So that's awesome. Great to hear. I think comparison's not great to hear. But I think following uplifting creators is definitely a great way to recenter, and we're actually going to talk about that pretty soon. But yeah, feel free to put it in the Q&A, and then we can just kind of read them off. And yeah, I think comparison's a really hard one though. I think our brains aren't really meant to see as much data as we do on social media. So it's just a bunch of different people and a bunch of different lifestyles, and we kind of don't know the full picture ever, really. So I think definitely a relatable moment there. But yeah, feel free to keep sending in some reflections. We might be able to circle back to those. But for now, if we want to head into the next slide, awesome. So yeah, we have a few tips to kind of balance your social media use and reconsider your relationship with your phone and social media. So again, there's no judgment. It's not like you need to never use your phone. Nobody's asking you to do that, right? Sometimes it feels like our parents do, but in all honesty, a lot of times it can be helpful and necessary in some cases. So, but in order to balance use and make sure we're getting the best of both worlds, creating a phone-free zone for yourself. So some people I've heard keeping it out of their bedroom, so like charging it outside of your bedroom, using your bedroom as a space to kind of relax, recharge, rather than being allowed to scroll in bed, because sometimes that's a slippery slope. And then following accounts that feel good. We already had a comment about that, so that's great. Like we already chatted about, sometimes if we're following people that we notice we're constantly comparing to, I've definitely been there, it's probably time to reconsider why you're following them. Or if you see other accounts that maybe you feel more represented, or they're just talking about topics that are more resonant with you, then it's probably a great choice to start following people that make you feel good. And then reorganizing your home screen is a big one. I think a lot of people, myself included, even when I've deleted apps, I will still just tap the place that it used to be. A little bit scary. But I think reorganizing your home screen to kind of be like, oh, where was I? I know you can also click hide if you don't want to delete the app. So then it's kind of you tap, but it gives you a few more steps. So it kind of puts a boundary between you and just the easy access to like whatever platform you find yourself going towards. So it's a great way to add a little barrier that makes you rethink why you're going on the platform. And then setting a timer is great. If you have limiting apps, some people just use Apple Screen Time. Some people have outside apps. I know Opal. I know there's a lot of them out there. So find what works for you and make sure you're using as much time as you want to be. And then I'll read just one more little reflection from the chat. And it's, I wish I would watch more intentionally. I'm trying to only look at posts that would benefit me to watch, like positive posts and educational things. That's great. I think sometimes we get stuck in the kind of negativity of social media, like we're talking about with our main themes, and totally comparison. So I think positive posts, I've definitely been trying to follow more informative news sources and also some positive news and like research oriented kind of platforms. So that's always a good call, especially if you're interested in certain things in the education space. So, all right, however, I want to emphasize, we don't need you to like adapt all the tips today. Maybe today you're just like, oh, I'll hide Instagram if you find you're using it too much. But if you're finding that maybe it's just more about a shift when you're on the platform, then that's great too. Just kind of, we want to give you all the resources and you can kind of choose what's going to work best. I mean, trial and error is great as well. And I'll pass it back to Katie. But yeah, if you have any more chat reflections, we'll share those over. We love to hear those.
Yeah, everyone, thank you so much for sharing and for being so engaged. I've loved hearing everyone's ideas. And so based on today's activities and strategies that we shared, we'd love for you just to reflect a little bit on the one thing that you will take away from our workshop today. And like Avery's talking about, not Avery, oh my gosh, like Riley was talking about, like a shift that you might make to center your mental health better. And yeah, so I would just take some time to reflect on that, and we won't be sharing this out. So this is kind of more of a personal reflection. Yeah, we'll just take some time to think on that. All right. So after our workshop, we just want to show you some ways that you can get involved with Good for Media beyond this workshop and beyond engaging in this session. So like I kind of mentioned before, we'd love for you to submit any blog posts, video testimonials, or any sort of creative work you might want to submit. We've had poems, which we love as well. And yeah, just anything that you might be interested in, anything you want to share, anything that you're really passionate about in terms of mental health and social media, please, please, please send that to us. And then you can also try out our conversation cards. You can order them on our website, or maybe you can get your school to order them from our website. Either way, we'd love for you to engage with our work. And yeah, thank you so much for being so engaged. You can sign up for our mailing list by scanning the QR code. And then if any of you guys have time or would like to, we'd love for you to fill out the feedback form so we can know what we can do better next time. So thank you for sharing this evening with us.
And yeah, we'll go ahead and pass it back to the Mind Out Loud team for some Q&A.
Thank you, Good for Media, for the amazing presentation. We'll go ahead and ask our speakers questions from the Q&A form now. If any questions pop up while we're going through, feel free to just submit them to the forum, and we'll make sure to get to them. So one of our questions was, how can teens use media as a tool for creativity, advocacy, or connection instead of comparison?
Yeah, I can share. I think a lot of that has to do with like mindfulness in terms of how you're engaging online, because social media apps love giving us content that we engage with. So I think being mindful, I think this was also already brought up, of like what type of content you're engaging with will change and shift your For You page and the content that you're being fed as well. And then I also think certain social media platforms tend to be more on the creative side rather than the comparison side. One example I can think of is Pinterest. I would say that would be a platform that might be more creative and artistic and be more positive in a sense than maybe TikTok would be. So I think also just watching what type of social media apps you're on is also really important.
I was just gonna say, making sure kind of you use all your resources. So some of the apps, I mean, we all know it's an algorithm kind of trying to feed us different content. So making sure if you're finding that it's too much of certain content, starting to click the not interested, or kind of like there's ways to clear your history in a lot of different apps. So just researching different ways to kind of actually modify what you're seeing, and making sure it's in that creative space you want it to be in, and things like that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Avery.
No, you're good. Another question we had was, how can students get involved or be a part of the work Good for Media does? Like, how can students on this call participate and help you guys and support you?
Yeah, so we shared a little bit about that. I know Marilyn posted a link in the chat too. Highly recommend our website. I feel like it's a little bit more informative than I might be, but there's different kind of levels of how you can participate. Some people will just send us a testimonial or a blog post, or just something about their experience, whether it's a video or a written submission. And yeah, that is, you don't necessarily need to be super involved. If you want to get more involved, we have different roles. So you can be a peer leader. That's what Katie and I are right now. We support at weekly meetings, and there's application rounds. They actually just closed, but they'll be circling back in the next year. And we also have, I believe, an ambassador program. I don't know if that's still, yeah. Do you want to speak a little bit on that, Marilyn?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for sharing a little bit. With our ambassador role, this role was created for young people who want to be involved, but maybe don't have the bandwidth or capacity to join us every Tuesday during our weekly meetings. It was created to be a little bit more independent. And so the whole premise of the ambassador role is to have young people submit their experiences or work on a project of some sort. And so if that feels like something that you feel called to do, if you're like, I don't know, now that our unfortunately, our application to join our team has closed. But if you still want to find a way to be more consistently involved and have some check-ins, the ambassador role is really great because it does allow for that independence while also providing touch points with our team to get feedback on the work that you're doing and things like that. And it's just a really great way for young people to have the opportunity to share their voice, to share their experiences. And then what we do is not only will we post them on our website, but we'll also post them on Instagram, just to, make sure that we're continuously sharing the wisdom that we learn from you all with other young people in the community that are connected to us. So it's really a pay it forward kind of energy where you share something about what you learned through your experience, and then we get to then share that with other people, and we'll use them in workshops as well, like you saw Katie's and other folks testimonials shared in this webinar. And so it's just a really great way to get more experiences out there and really let people know, like, what are the experiences that young people are having and why do they matter, right? Why should young people be a part of the conversations and have a seat at the table? And that's kind of one of our ways that we do that. I don't know if there's anything else you two would add about that.
I just
I would
want to
think-
add, you go first, Katie. Go ahead.
Oh, I was literally just going to say, make sure to follow us on social media for if there are any more opportunities, or if when our applications for youth leaders do open up and if you're interested. So at Good for Media on Instagram.
That's awesome. I think I was just also going to say the ambassadors program, because our applications closed for peer leaders, the ambassadors program is also a great stepping stone. So if you wanted to apply next year, it'd be great experience to be in the ambassador programs this year. And one other thing on the testimonials, you do not need to be a professional writer or videographer. We have youth, maybe 13 submitting things. We have, and people who are like 19, 20. It's totally, informal, but you'll get some feedback from us, and not from a place of judgment, but just making sure, it's what you're trying to say is coming off that way. But yeah, no pressure there, but I do think it's a great opportunity if you want to kind of share your story in a very low stakes place. Yeah.
Yeah, that was some great insight as to how to get involved. Thank you guys. Another question, how does Good for Media do work, or does Good for Media just do work for teens, or is it all ages? Who's your guys' target?
Yeah, I can start off, and then Katie and Riley, if you want to fill in. We work, I think the focus of our work is to work with young people ages around 13 to 26. And so we have done workshops with young people in middle school and in high school and even in college. So there's a few different touch points that we like to do. Again, the whole mission and reason why Good for Media started is because so many adults are pointing the finger at young people saying, you're addicted to your phone and you're on your screen, and that's why all of these things are happening, right? And we recognize that is a myth and wanted to really break that down. And so by having young people lead this work and share their personal experiences with other young people in hopes that they can learn from that, right? And so that is our bread and butter. We're peer-to-peer and want to make sure that it stays that way. But yeah, hopefully that answered your question. We do also, though, do workshops with parents and educators as well. I think Katie or Riley, one of you mentioned that in the workshop. We've done plenty of workshops with parents. We even have a parent guide. So if you feel like your guardian is needing a little bit of support in understanding this concept and this idea of a tech balance, you can definitely share that with them. I'll put it in the chat. And then we also have worked with educators as well. So yeah, I don't know, Katie, Riley, anything you would add about that?
Love a good passive aggressive guide sharing to a parent. That's always love that. Yeah, no, that's great.
So just one more question for you guys. What are ways you each try to be more intentional rather than passive users of media?
I think one of the ways that I did that in the past, I think like that really like altered the way that I like view social media now is I did something which I don't know if I recommend, but I just deleted all of my social media for 6 months. I did like cold turkey, and that was, you know, like it wasn't enjoyable at sometimes, definitely. I had some withdrawals, which isn't good. But I think that's definitely like changed the way that I view my engagement with social media and the way that I kind of began to recognize the way that it was really impacting me. So I would say that's something that I would recommend to all of you as well. Maybe not 6 months, but maybe for a day. Try to like kind of feel out what a day feels like without going on social media. And I think that will lead to a lot of reflection.
No, that was iconic.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say that was just, I remember she's written about it. So if you want to hear about that story, she's submitted testimonials too. Marilyn, did you want to speak on?
Oh, I was just
Your-
saying, like, that was so iconic to go 6 months.
It was. It really was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was awesome. But yeah, that was all I was gonna say. It was just iconic.
So iconic. Yeah. I did not go 6 months cold turkey. I use screen limiting apps. So I think right now I use Opal. I'm pretty sure that one's kind of nice. There's a lot of them you have to pay for, which is a little bit strange. I don't have premium by any means, but one thing I've been doing lately is kind of involving my friends. So like one of my close friends, she's not local, but I can see on Opal, you can like friend someone and then see their screen time, and it becomes like a relatively healthy competition of like who can, like, I'm like, come on, Nina, you've been on for 4 hours just on Instagram. It's only noon. Like, come on. And just kind of a little bit of that, sometimes that gentle nudge from a peer is helpful. If I hear that from a parent, completely different story. But another thing is one of my other friends is really, she's followed she's recommended the Guardian social media kind of detox. It was kind of like, it's this like maybe 6-week plan that it kind of like is like a newsletter you can sign up for completely free. And it kind of details like, I know I watched a vlog about someone doing it. So now I've kind of signed up for 2026. And so far it's been interesting. There's different steps. Some people go really extreme and they're like, now I only use it 5 minutes a day. I'm leaning like, okay, maybe I'll aim for like 30 minutes a day. But I think just making sure that I'm involving other people, and then also just for myself, following creators that kind of empower me is really important. I think in the past, I've definitely been in the habit of like following people or engaging with people whose content isn't necessarily serving me. And I think one of the big things I did was just clearing the history, starting fresh, refollowing people. If I forgot who they were and forgot to follow them, they probably weren't that, important in my life. And yeah, so those are a few of the things I've done, but definitely there's always room to grow. I still have days where I'll be like, just scroll for many hours straight. I'm not perfect at all, but I think those are some things that I do to help, especially like after something like that, where I'm kind of like, let's reset. So, yeah.
Since there are no more questions, we'd like to thank all of you and our guest speakers for joining us tonight. Please, we would really appreciate it if you guys could fill out the feedback form in the chat to let us know how we did and to help us improve in the future. We really appreciate your feedback. Visit our website to join our future monthly workshops, and thank you so much for joining us today. Bye.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all so much for joining.
Thanks, everyone.